Let's start at the beginning. Why not?
Yes.
Good question someone sent in is, what inspired you to want to become a writer in the first place?
Well, I've wanted to be a writer since I was 11.
Oh,
I
wow.
wanted to be an author for like forever. I've wanted to write books. Now I've no idea if that's the books I was reading or I've just always loved to write stories. It's just been in me. I know my mum and dad used to say when they used to have people around to play bridge and stuff, and my room was above the living room. And so when I got sent upstairs, we couldn't watch the TV because they were playing bridge with some friends. All I could hear was me going tap, 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 on the typewriter upstairs, which I think was both fabulous because they knew I was doing a story, terrible because it was disturbing their evening. But only told me later. Like my mum told me this about last year or last 2 years' time. So.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, but that's so I don't know if I got an inspiration, and it isn't like I read a book and thought, I could do better than that, because I was too young to think that. I just loved every book that I read, so I just thought I'd like to do that, what these people are doing, and so I have.
many times, yes, at this point. Yes. So I was going to have to point these out because when I first came across your work, it was during the Chronicles of the Raven.
Yes.
And these beauties.
Look at that.
The thing is, right, something at the time I never realized, these have sprayed edges on a paperback that match the color of the book. No one has done this since these came out. I have not seen them on paperbacks. Like,
yeah, they did sold well, that jacket. I have to say that was the first thing. That was the first rejacketing we did. Because the very first one, hang on, let me just get you the, hang on, can I get that? Hang on a minute. That up there.
Oh, yes.
That's the original of Dawn Thief, which I bought off Fred Gambino years and years ago, because they all look like that, all moody and fantasy. So I can be looking moody into the camera like this. Yeah, so and those books, I just love the silhouette idea. I love the two colors of silhouette, the edging. I love everything about them. They're fantastic. Yeah. Oh, well done for getting them. Good work.
I've got the lot. They're all sat. It was me. I'm the one who's got them all.
You bought them.
Yeah.
Well done. Actually, they mimic that style with the first German edition too.
Nice.
But they didn't do the painted edges. I think that was probably a step too far for them. I think I'm not a surprise since I was a new author to them. But they followed it, and they broke each book down into two, because you'll know the number of characters in German is about 25% more than it is in English. So every book is split into two pieces. So there were sort of 12 Raven books in German. Well, there was subsequently a single volume for each one that was brought out, but not in the beginning.
Yeah, but there's been other covers since then, because I've I'm constantly introducing people to your work and telling them about them, and they're getting the new covers with the swords and shields and weapons on the front and all this kind of stuff. So I had a good question, because obviously you've been writing for a long time now. How has your writing process changed from the beginning compared to now?
It's evolved significantly, but it evolved all of it. So not an evolution, a revolution, you'd say, because I did this much with the Raven books. The first one was a torturous process because it was a first novel. But the idea of the process was there in that I knew roughly what was going to happen. I knew who was alive at the start and who was alive at the end and what had to have happened, and then I kind of wrote it. So there wasn't a lot of, and then I just see how it goes.
Right.
Because it's not really a process at all. That's winging it, I think, is the technical term for that process.
Yep, used official terms, yes.
Yes, that's highly technical.
As professional authors,
Yes, hardly any of us do that, I can tell you.
Yes.
But then following on from that, that's how I continue doing the Raven books. And the reason I liked it for those books is because of the pace that it gave them. And so, and particularly in a battle scene, I've never ever planned a battle scene in my life. I don't believe in it, because I think if you do that, you choreograph it, and when it's choreography, it's too much like a dance,
right? And
it's too pretty. And for me, fighting with swords and magic is not pretty. It's bloody and brutal and usually brief. Alliteration for you. and so that's how all the Raven fights are. And you'll know if you read them, they're just basically utter chaos. And I do them through one or two points of view and just try and get them done. And my first draft is often, it's not unchanged at all because you have to tidy up bits, but generally speaking, the pace and the sequencing of the fight won't change. Because I think if I start editing it, then I'm going to edit the rawness out of it. So I don't do that, and I still don't do that actually. But other parts of the writing process changed a lot because what suddenly happened one book, and it was, I think it was an Elves book. Was it an Elves book? Probably, yes, an Elves book. When I had written 60,000 words of it, and I read it back, and I thought, this is terrible. And it was terrible. It was turgid and slow, and things weren't moving as I wanted. It was the first one. I think it was the first Elves book. And I just thought, this isn't working. And it's a bit frightening to think, all right, so the process I've been using for ages, which is you're alive here and you're dead over here, and then this stuff happens in the middle, or that just wasn't working. So I then had to start breaking it down into why. I had to find out why it wasn't working, and then work out how I was going to make the pace work. And so I actually then did a plan, which was alien to me at the time.
Right.
Not detailed chapter plans, but I just needed to know the key sequences, not the key narratives, because I knew those, and I knew the thread lines and the plot lines, I knew all of those things.
Yeah.
I just had to make it sing faster. And so I ended up stripping out lots of unnecessary bits and pieces. And then I thought, okay, why wasn't it working? It wasn't working because I just went off at a tangent to the main story, and then I couldn't ever find my way back. And before that's worked out quite nicely, but this time it didn't. So then I had to make sure that I was still kept on the rough central narrative. Well, you can deviate, of course, but you have to come back at some stages. You know, you can't go from London to Glasgow through all points in the world, because it would take you forever. So it's kind of so the journey had to be shorter. So then I started doing a little bit of plotting and a little bit of identifying key moments, and a little bit of identifying key relationships, and then I wrote in a slightly different way. But I still loved the Elves books. All the Elves books were great. I thought they worked extremely well, but they were different, and they were different because of that. And all the books I've done since then have all been different, except for Raven Soul, which came after the Elves books, and I wrote it like the other Raven books, and it worked perfectly. So
okay. I think I know the answer to this question because I've got my own answer, but how many books you've done at this point? 12, 14? Is the process any easier for you writing a novel?
No.
Okay.
No, it's still
same
what
for
about
me.
you?
No.
Same.
No. The answer is no.
In some ways it's harder because I haven't got as much energy. I mean, I've been published since 1999, which is a long time now. And it's 14 novels and a couple of novellas and all sorts of other bits and pieces I've done. And I can't work for as many hours at a stretch as I used to.
No.
And part of that is not age, although I do have slightly greying hair.
There's some silver. There's silver in here. You can't see it.
A tiny bit of grey in my hair now.
Mm-hmm.
But life goes on. Marriage, children, dogs. I mean, there are a million distractions, and so it's harder to find the same number of hours that I used to find.
Yeah.
So it is slower and it is harder, because then what you don't get is the continuity. And I love continuity, like probably every author. I love continuity when I'm writing. I can't, because when I first started writing, I was in work, and actually it really helped, because I'd write every morning on the tube on the way to work. Then I write every evening on the way home from work on the tube, and then I'd carry on writing when I got home. So it was every single day.
Yeah.
And when I went full time, it was every single day too. But then got married, had children, had dogs, moved house, and so life really crowds you at times. And so I haven't found a way of streamlining the process. I'm not sure I want to, but I haven't found a way of streamlining the process to fit with all the distractions and the disturbances that happen in the course of a normal working day.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I'm working part-time and writing part-time, so I start to get into a rhythm, and then I've got to do the day job, and then I come back, and it's that family and everything else that's going on, and cats. So it's chaos. It's chaos. Yeah, I'm waiting for one of them to burst through the door, to be honest. He's quite persistent. It's that thing of it just, so it must get easier the more books you do. I'm thinking, No, because after so many books, I don't want to repeat myself, and
that's the point.
I want to do something different every time. And so that's a challenge for me anyway. And then therefore it just finding the time and finding the continuity, as you say, to sit down and work on it. Not
just different, but better at the same time. Because I mean, I bet you every single author's the same. We want to try and beat our last thing. You want to look back and think that's a better book than the last one. So away down the line.
Yeah.
And that also makes it harder. So, so frankly, we're our own worst enemies, Steve.
It does sound like it, but equally the fans and reviewers will be tougher, if not as tough, So
no, that's true.
Yeah. So I've had a number of people help me along the way, including yourself, to get where I am today. So tell me about, well, you very kindly gave a lovely cover quote for the Coward, which was
top book they made. I love that book.
Thank you very much. Tell me about some of the people who helped you along the way, and someone who was an inspiration to both of us was, of course, David Gemmell.
Yes, well, I mean, actually, I'd written a few books before I met Dave. Before that, actually, one of my other key influences and key helpers have been Stan Nichols, who actually reviewed Dawn Thief for Time Out when he did a column for Time Out and gave a really nice review. So, and then we subsequently met and chatted and stuff, and he was one of Dave Gemmell's best friends, his best man at his wedding, that sort of thing. So, so they're pretty close. And I actually bumped into Dave on a train going to France. We were both going on the same little book tour in Paris, and it's terrifying meeting your hero, except he's completely lovely and charming and asked me loads of questions, and I wanted to ask him loads of questions. And if we have time, I'll tell you an embarrassing story, which is why we ended up becoming really good friends. Should I tell you? I can tell you if you like.
Go on.
Basically, we were sitting in a restaurant. He was sitting next to me, and we were facing. There's a big table, and we were in like a booth with a big painting on the wall, the Napoleonic battle going on. And it is quite embarrassing, this. So I'm going to go for it.
Okay.
It's a long time ago, though, right? This is like early 2000s.
Yeah. Anyone involved in stuff? There's a passage of crimes and time.
Historical naivety. This is the worst sort in many ways. Anyway, we were talking about battles, about how we write battles and how it will work. And he said, "Well, tell you what, James," he said, "when you get home, the book to read, you want to read Austerlitz." I went, "Oh, okay." So I tucked that away in my little memory. Then later on, I thought, Austerlitz, not sure what that is really. So I said, so what's the title of the book this Austerlitz bloke wrote? And he fell about laughing, and he pointed at the painting. I thought, I don't know why you're laughing. He pointed at the painting, and the painting was actually a picture of the Battle of Austerlitz. And he said, "Very gently, it's not a man, James. All of them, it's a battle." Anyway, so we all had. So anyway, so I thought, to be embarrassed, I just couldn't help it. I just laughed my head off. I think I'd had enough wine. Anyway, but because of that particular moment, then when we got home, he invited me down to his place. So we spent a really good weekend chatting about everything and nothing. And since and after that, right up until his extremely untimely death, we kept in close touch, and he would read bits of my stuff, and terrifyingly, he'd ask me to read bits of his stuff and tell him what I thought of it. I think, see. You want my opinion? I see. So, do you?
Awkward. Awkward. Okay.
No, I tried to be honest, and he'd go, yeah. And so every now and again, he'd say, yeah, I thought that. And I'd go,
not keen on this bit.
But he was a massive help, and he wrote me a cover quote, and he was really good at explaining how he injected the energy into his books, and so he was just a huge influence on me, because I've read a lot of his books. I think I'm saving a couple because there aren't going to be any more, so I've got a couple still to read, and I'll get onto them one day, but kind of reluctant.
Yeah,
just in case.
I got the reissued crime novels that he did before.
Oh yeah,
I've got them, and there again, I haven't read them, and I still haven't read the third Troy book. It's kind of like,
no, that's me too. The third Troy book is that is one of the key ones.
Pull in case of emergency, break glass. That's
exactly.
my book to read.
Exactly.
You know, it's Desert Island, that one, and some other ones. You know, this is
I mean, but beyond that, I think in terms of influences or people sort of supporters, I mean, there were other authors along the way, like Stan Nichols, was really helpful, and actually Steve Baxter back in the early days. I met him at a Gollancz function, and he was very helpful about when I wanted to go full time, about how you might manage it and how you might react to it after a life in work.
Yeah.
And also Rob Grant, the Red Dwarf co-writer, who was at the same function, and I said to him, I asked him, what's the one piece of advice you'd give an author going full time? He just said, get dressed in the morning, which is actually a brilliant piece of advice. I kept on doing that, and obviously get up, put your clothes on, and go to work, as opposed to sit in your dressing gown and not feel like you're at work. And it's worked for me. But I haven't actually tried working in my pajamas, so I don't know if that doesn't work. I don't know. What about you? Have you done
I'm really regimented, whether I'm working, doing the day job, or I'm writing 5 days a week. I get at the same time every day, and I finish at the same time every day. Just because I have to, like you said, I treat it as a job, and it's the best job in the world, and I love it. But equally, there's some days I just don't want to do it, but I have to do it because it's my job. So I sit down and I put my pants on and I write the book.
Good man. Always like wearing pants. I think it's very
absolutely
important.
Key. Pants help with motivation.
I think if there's any bit of advice anyone takes away from this interview, it is put your pants on.
That's the one bit of advice you give to aspiring authors.
Yeah, see, otherwise you can't write by the seat of your pants, can you?
No,
because you're not wearing any.
You see, everything just slips away. Yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Your new book, The Queen's Assassin, has come out, and the paperback has just come out now. So tell us about it. Where did this book come from? What inspired it, and where did the character of Naida come from?
Yeah, Naida. Naida. I don't know how you pronounce. I mean, everyone can pronounce her exactly as they like. It's, as I said, a really good question. So it came out of absolutely nowhere.
Okay.
I was just knocking about ideas. I just think I could do with just seeing what I might like to write next, because I didn't want to write a group dynamic, and I didn't want to write like a massive sprawling epic. I wanted to write something where, well, actually, I didn't set out with any particular ideas apart from those two I didn't want to do. And then what popped up was this. I don't know if this is spoilers, but maybe it's no spoilers to say that she's a healer.
Yes.
So whereas every other character I've written has been a fighter of some sort, or in the Ascendants they've been well, some of them have been fighters, but also that they've been magicians as well, wizards or whatever you want to call them. Ascendants in my book, of course. Otherwise, I couldn't have called the series The Ascendants, could I? Because it would have been.
The healers, the wizards, the mages, the Ascendants,
Anyway, that stuff. Anyway, So and they'd all been life takers in some regard, either to a greater or lesser degree, or people that are prepared to do that. So writing a healer who wants to save life, not take it, was quite exciting and quite a challenge, because I'm really not used to that sort of thing. And so to write what's effectively a reasonably, it's a sort of conspiracy fantasy, if you like. Was quite. It just popped up, and then when Naida popped up as the lead character, I just thought, I just love this character. I love her completely. I have to understand her and then write about how she would face what she faces, and she faces things that you never expect, and she's had to hide her true identity all her life. And when she is revealed to the one person she doesn't want to be revealed to, which is also isn't a spoiler because you don't know who it is until you read the book, how she handles that. And it's about her as a leader, as a healer, as a diplomat, as just an all-round fantastic human being, really. And the whole book revolves around her. I mean, it's just I think she's the best character I've ever written. I'd say if I had to pick a top three, she would certainly top three, possibly the very best.
Okay.
Because she was so easy to write. Here we go, another stupid contradiction, but so hard to write at the same time, because the instincts that I have as a person to how she ought to react, she couldn't often have.
Right.
Because that isn't the way that she would do stuff. So you had to get right inside her head every time that I opened a page and needed to do a scene where she faced something different or whatever challenge it might be. And I think that it took me a long time to do, but I think it took me a long time to do because I had to get her right. And I was dissatisfied with an awful lot of the novel when I first wrote it. And those that don't know, it does concern a plague, and I actually had written most of the first draft before COVID struck. I even put a note in the front of the book to that effect, but just to say, don't do it that way, you will. But it does deal with it, but it also deals with how this plague is dealt with or not, and the vested interest that are pushing it. There's also an allegory for Brexit, if you like, because it is about people being pushed into decisions which are against their best interests. And I apologize to anyone that voted Brexit and still thinks it's a good idea, but we lost another follower.
God. Oh no, that's the one gone. Yeah.
It's down to 0. But yes, go on.
I was going to say, so given that you'd written most of it before COVID, did you change much, or was there any question from the publisher about the timing and do we change this, or
when to publish was more of a question, because I think bringing it out in the middle of the pandemic wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks like I'm trying to profit off it, which I wasn't. Yeah. And then actually at one stage we when was it? What did you want to delay? When did the Queen die? Because we were going to do something quite big with the Queen's assassin, and then the Queen died. And that was last year, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I think so. I can't remember what it was we delayed, but we were going to. I can't remember what it was now. But we said we won't do that now. We're going to do some promotional work on the hardback and stuff, and then we decided not to. I think because a bit awkward. So that might not have gone down well, but I bet in the end, who cares? But I think it's been pretty well received, but it's not like any other book that I've written. So I don't really know whether my core readership will pick it up and like it, or whether they won't. I mean, time will tell. In the next few months, I guess I'll know, because people start sending me emails or not sending me emails saying that they enjoyed it, or they thought this is crap, or where's Hirad, or No, I've had a couple of reviews on Amazon. I saw one of them said back to his best, and the one below it is not back to his best. So there you go. So I mean, it's going to divide opinion, I guess. But
yeah. But she's a very interesting character, because she has essentially this Hippocratic oath that prevents her from using her gifts to harm people when essentially she could, because she knows enough about medicine that she wanted to.
She knows how to do it.
Yeah, she could a little tweak of a potion or a recipe or something, and suddenly it's gone from healing someone to a little bit too much of this and reducing pain to and now they're dead. So
must have been a worse wound than we thought. Internal bleeding, if you ask me.
I tried to help with the bunion and it just killed him. I don't know what went wrong.
It got infected.
Yeah, that was it. Dead. Yeah, but she's got this kind of constant internal struggle between the things she's been asked to do in the story without spoiling it, while at the same time she's trying to help people and heal people, and there's this great kind of constant internal conflict between her plus all the people all around her.
I mean, the key conflict is probably inside herself. With what she will and what she won't do, and what she would really like to do, but won't, absolutely won't, not can't, but won't. And there are times when I as an author, I hope as readers think, oh, for God's sake, just do it already. Just this once, it'll be fine. You'll be all right. But that's her. She won't do that. So there are things that she does, but she probably regrets later. So regret at leisure, as they say. But people have to read the book to find out whether the things that she does that she regrets are terminal or not.
Yes, as the case may be. But you wrote this as a standalone, and that was always the idea from the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had no thoughts. I mean, bizarrely, well, of course, I've come up with an idea for a sequel, but I don't know that I'll ever write that. So I don't think it's necessarily the right thing to do, although it would be fun, because I think it would be the interesting thing would be, well, I can't spoil it, but where she gets to at the end, how does she deal with that? Because that's quite a different role than the one that she had before.
Yes, yeah.
I think I can say that.
Yeah. That's not spoiling. Yeah, things have changed from the beginning to the end. It's natural.
Yes. You went on a journey, Steve.
A journey. We're all going on a journey, you know. Every TV show, every reality show, we're on a journey. Apparently. Anyway.
Yes, as I understand.
Christ. Yeah. Anyway, so do you still get like emails from people who are just finding like the Raven books and contact you about
the odd one? The odd one. It isn't as much as it used to be, because now they'll kind of send you a little note on Twitter or on Facebook, something like that. But I used to get quite a lot of emails, but quite a lot of them were irritable about someone that I might have killed in one of the Raven books. They were, it's tricky business. But not so many now, because I think people don't use that medium to contact authors, so they don't have to now. They can send me a message on Twitter or something, and I'll pick it up. Well, I'm still on Twitter. Who knows how long that'll last? I
don't know. The way things are with Twitter, it's very who knows?
We don't know.
Who knows? It'll be here.
But author Twitter seems to be okay still, to be fair, but just curating my feed a bit more than I used to.
Yeah, keep my head down, below the parapet from certain things, and talk to the other authors. Use it as a
I think it's wise.
I just kind of use it as a water cooler thing, like we used to do back in the old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a coffee break and a water cooler chat, and 20 minutes, and then come off, and that's about it these days. I think
that's it.
Yeah.
So I think the latest. I mean, fortunately on Twitter, because it's shorter messages, it tends to be found your book, really loving it, or someone's recommended it to someone that's then picked it up, and then they'll tell me they've liked it. I mean, I don't get many saying, "I thought your book was a pile of crap," which is nice. That's what they save those for Amazon reviews.
Good. Yes. Sure.
I think, I've had some cracking 1-starers, which I'm very pleased about. I've seen more interesting puddles is my favorite.
Joe Abercrombie does that. He posts his favorite 1-star ones on Twitter.
He's got some absolute gems.
I'm just thinking, he sat at home going, fine, that's okay, whatever. At this point, I don't think he cares.
I mean, funny enough, I find his 1-stars more confusing than mine.
Right.
You see what I mean? Because you read a 1-star review of a book that you've read of his and think, have you actually read the book? Have you read any of it? Did you just not understand it? Was it too complicated? Or, what is it? Because what you've just written in your 1-star review doesn't really bear any relation to anything that I read in this book. And we both apparently read the same book, but there you go. That's opinions for you, I suppose. But
yeah,
it's entertaining.
So what are you working on? What are you working on now? Are you planning something? Are you thinking ahead, or got lots of ideas?
I've got loads of ideas. I'm writing 2 things, or planning 2 things that aren't even fantasy, which is, well, one of them sort of, is it fantasy? It's contemporary and has mysticism in it.
Okay, so urban fantasy-ish.
It's not weird, but it's not magic as such, and
right.
It's not demons and whatnot. It's but that's more young adult market series, and I'm also trying to get my head around an also mystical, psychological thriller, and that's proving really tricky because I've had this notion, and I'm struggling so hard to find a story to hang around it which really works, because it's one of those things at the moment you step outside these very tight lines, it gets completely out of control.
Yeah.
And then the book isn't going to work. It'll just fall to pieces. There'll be too many loose ends, and threads will go nowhere and stuff. And so I'm trying to rein it in, and it's proving really hard. And one of these days I'll talk to you about it, but not on a public forum like this.
Yeah. I've got a thing as well that I really want to do, but it's kind of like I'm trying to find out how it fits to tell that particular story. It's
but that's it. Because I had it years ago. This idea. I was trying to cast around, thinking for just sort of one-line inspirations or titles of books and stuff. I just mucking about, and this title popped up. I thought, oh my God, that's brilliant. Now then, and then years later, I'm still thinking, yeah, it is really brilliant. And I've tried it about, I don't know, 8 or 9 different ways. I've started writing it. I've written little synopses and just tried to thread the story, and I can't make the bloody thing work. And it's really frustrating, because I think if I did, it would be really good. But well, it would be really good, but I can't find a way to hang it. But there you go, and I guess that's it. But and then in terms of fantasy stuff, I've got all sorts of fantasy ideas. But again, I don't know which one will work, whether people still want them. I don't know, because I haven't actually presented anything to anyone, let alone my agent.
Okay.
in fantasy terms. So I think we'll see on that score, because I'm really enjoying the young adult thing. So I'm going to pursue that for a little bit, because that is working. And
okay, yeah.
I hope I can get that away. I mean, you just don't know. It's a hugely competitive market, and I've got no track record in it, and it could be the best book in the world, and people will say, so what? He's never written one of these, and we'd rather say off the guy that just has. I don't know.
But you do have a stack of books that you have written, you know.
Yes, there is that. Yes. I mean, I think I can prove I can write a story and stuff, but I suppose it's a question of whether there is desire for me to write young adult for a publisher. We'll find out. And
yeah.
So, but I am very optimistic, because I think it's very good. But we'll see.
Okay.
I don't make any promises.
No promises. No
promises.
So I have this thing, I don't know if you do. Sometimes I'll have a bit of an idea or half an idea, and I end up wandering around with it in my head for months, sometimes years, and I can't get the pieces to fit to make the thing. Do you have that?
Yes. The psychological thing is exactly that. But also when the Ascendance is probably because it's been, the Ascendance where it came out bloody ages ago, I don't know now, quite a long time ago, the 2 massive tomes, which I love writing, but would never ever do something that length ever again. It was quite the task.
Right.
I'm really pleased I've done it. 500,000 words in 2 books, but
wow. Okay.
I wouldn't do it again. But I don't think. Well, maybe if I found a story that big. But I thought about it actually when, bizarrely, I found the earliest notes I found for what then became the Ascendants were written in 1985 when I was in college.
Wow.
And I'd written these notes about this thing called Triad, and it was about three magicians. I didn't know anything about actual triads by that time. But it was the genesis of the same thing, because it was about three magicians that come along at the same time, and they're young, and they're the first, and they grow in a time of war. So, and then it became, and that's the very first notes, and I think it just sat in my head until eventually it coalesced into something that I felt I could write. I think actually partially, I don't think I felt capable when I first started really planning it out, thinking, this is big. This is like empires, and I want this to be Romans and sort of Romanesque style, and that massive sprawling but crumbling empires, and the birth of magic into a world that's never seen it before. And it was going to be huge. It's just a huge notion. I thought, I'm not going to be able to get this into a 125,000 word book, or even 2 or 3. It's not going to work like that. It needs to have this. Because I didn't want to arbitrarily split it, because the first story was enormous. And so I don't think when I was writing, I don't know when I first thought about I might do it. It's probably after the Chronicles of the Raven. I thought I don't think I can do that. And so I set it aside until I felt I was capable of writing it. And so they came along after the Raven, largely. Although it was being planned and sort of test writing and stuff before then, I think, that in odd moments. But again, it was finding how the pieces would mesh, because it was quite big, and there were people from all over the place that had influence, and I wasn't quite sure who the enemy was. And then the central adult hero in this book was going to be this one guy, and then it ended up being the man who's the head taxman, and I don't even understand where that came from, but he turned up, as I was writing, he turned up in a chapter because they were collecting taxes, and it was a bit brutal and stuff. and these young ascendants were there being chaperoned somewhere else. And as soon as he started speaking, I thought, oh God, I like you. You're good. And then he spoke some more. And I thought, actually, you're really quite cool, because you're sort of arrogant, but you sort of got a heart, but no one really knows where it is or how to find it. And what you do have is an enormous sense of duty and what is right and what is wrong within the frame of your understanding of the empire that you serve. And he just became this fascination. And his journey from this sort of very aloof man who gets stuck with these 4 bickering children, and he's never been with children before. And so this journey of his, from this sort of just shut up and get on with it sort of, to eventually loving them and protecting them and wanting the best for them, wanting to protect them, not just from the enemies, but from themselves and from what the empire would do to them. I loved his journey. But again, I don't think I could have written that when I'd just written Dawn Thief and Noonshade. Say, don't think I could have done that. It wouldn't have worked out.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think it's almost like being able to see the opportunity and then just run with it, rather than think, I can't do that. And so there are times when you think maybe the maturity that says that you can do it, and then before that you just not mature enough to really give it a crack. And I've done it several times since in other books where I've seen it start, and I thought, this scene isn't going to go the way that I thought it was going to, but I love the way it's going, and I'm just going to let it happen.
Right.
I'm sure you've done this as well. And it developed into something altogether more wonderful. And there's a bit in the third Elves book where, and I hadn't planned it at all, where sort of the biggest, hardest, toughest Taigethen elf, they're going up a small fissure and he gets stuck. And he is terrified. And he's terrified because when he was a child, he got stuck in the same way and I thought he was going to die. And this whole little sub story comes out. And it's and I think it's one of the best pieces of writing I've ever done. And it came out of nowhere, but it just felt right. And so I wrote it.
I think there is some of that leveling up kind of thing, that there's some things at the beginning when I was writing I couldn't have done. I feel like that with my new series now, I couldn't have written it when I first wrote Battle Mage. I wasn't ready. I wasn't able. But I'm trying it now, and then we'll see if it works or not.
I haven't got to Judas Blossom yet, Steve. So I'll surely let you know.
It's out in July, so yeah.
But see, the things that I thought. I mean, the Coward and the Warrior are for me. They're a step up from your Battle Mage. That series.
Thank you.
And because but that's experience and maturity as an author, isn't it? So
hopefully, yeah.
I think and you found it. I don't know, but without giving away the Coward, your central character is beautifully complex, and because obviously that's what makes the book sing.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously there's terrific characters that go around with him, but his. Again, I'm not going to do another inconsistent. I'm going to do another contradiction now, but his consistent inconsistency is. If I thought it was extremely well done, but I think, but that's why I think that's maturity on your part, I'd say.
Yeah, I also if when I first started writing, having read some non-fiction books and met some people who'd actually suffered from PTSD, I don't think I could have written it when I first wrote my first book. So trying to get the layers, and the best compliment I've had from some people reading The Coward, they've said to me, "Oh, so did you serve in the military?" And I'm like, no way. But the fact that you might think that because the character feels fractured and feels like a broken person who's just trying to get through the day and to live with the experience
exactly.
That was fantastic compliment. So I will take that any day of the week than a 1-star saying boring. I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care. So last question. Do you still read fantasy just for fun? Can you set the kind of analytical part of your brain, the writer's part of your brain, and just enjoy fantasy? Because I know some authors can't read within the same genre. It's too much of a busman's holiday.
I don't read as much, that's for sure, and I probably don't read as widely. I'm a bit. Is it stick in the mud? I don't know. I read, so for instance, I'll read all of RJ Barker's books because I think RJ is a super.
Oh, don't tell me, he'll just blow more smoke up his ass. He doesn't
No,
need it. He's doing very well.
I probably told him, but no, I think so. I look forward to a book by him.
His new one looks brilliant. Gods of the Weird Wood.
Oh, it's fabulous, mate.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you get on. Yeah. And without blowing smoke up your fundament, I look forward to books by you as well. So, and I read, and it's not fantasy, but Adrian Tchaikovsky. Actually, quite recently discovered, and I'm devouring. Now, I'm reading the Architect series, which is just mind-blowingly good. Really very super stuff. But I've read quite a lot of his books all of a sudden, and I read Joe. Yeah. You know, and I'm going to branch out because, and this is one of the delightful things about Twitter, because, for instance, I chat a lot to Pete McLean.
Yep.
But I haven't read any of his books, but I'm going to because of that.
They're so good. There we go. There's the 4 of them.
Yeah, there you go.
Make up the series. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll be cracking into those, I think. And again, same. Again, not fantasy, but Stark Holborn.
Stark, yeah, sci-fi.
Yeah. Read 10 Low, which is excellent, really excellent. And I bought the sequel and it's ready to go. So I suppose now I'm about to say I don't read very much fantasy and science fiction.
Actually, turns out fair bit. Yeah.
But I tell you what, I'm much less patient now. And if I read a new author and I don't like, I'm going to just put it away. And I've done that with a couple of authors who are very well spoken of, and people have said, you know, next big things. I've read half a book and thought I don't like it. But that's just me. It's probably my age and all that.
No, I'm the same. I picked up some books and thought, yeah, and I read it and go, it's not for me. So people enjoy it, great. Have your cake and eat it.
Yeah, totally, yes.
But it's just
not. And I'm never going to slag off a book that I don't like, because I'm not a reviewer, and I'm not going to. I'm happy to write big reviews for books that I love, because I want more people to read those books. But I'm not going to try and stop people reading a book that I don't like, because they should be completely free to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I hope more people, and I always, and I think, you know, I respect pretty much every author, because I know how hard it is to get a book published. So it's got to have something about it, just that it wasn't for me.
Yeah, this is it. Getting published and then staying published, the two hardest things in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. But I read more. I read a fair bit of non-fiction, but quite a lot of I've sort of politics books as well. I've started reading some of those. So I'm just interested in British politics, particularly sort of in the Brexit and post-Brexit environment. It's more interesting now, for better or worse, but it is really interesting.
Definitely.
And I've read a lot of, and one of my big love has always been like Antarctic and Arctic expeditions and stuff. So I've read lots of stuff about Scott and lots of stuff about Amundsen and all the people that went with them. And I'm just about to read a book called Erebus, which is by Michael Palin, which is where the Erebus is a ship that got lost with the Terror up in trying to do the Northern Passage in the Arctic,
right?
And got found, and so he's written the story of, I think, but it's non-fiction, but I think it reads probably reads a bit like a thriller, I should think.
Interesting.
But it's got very. I've just read reviews of it and read the back of it and thought, this is just me. This is absolutely my book. So, and Shackleton, of course. Read plenty about him. But he was quite an astonishing man. As an extraordinary explorer. So I love books like that as well. So maybe they're adventures, aren't they? But that's the thing, that these adventures into unknown, so they're almost like sort of, you could argue they're fantasy-esque because of the extraordinary things these men got up to.
Yeah, Well, maybe the next book you write was some kind of that explorers on the edge type feel of explorers of the unknown, you know. Inspired by who knows? Watch this space.
Watch this. Who can tell?
Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you for talking to me about all your writing and everything. And I'll put links down below for everyone to find all information about Queen's Assassin and to go and check it out. Go check it out. Go and look at it. I'm watching you.
Don't just look at it. Read it.
Read it. Well, buy it. You don't have to read it. Just buy it. We get paid the same.
Just read it. Yeah. But then borrow it from the library a lot.
Yes, that's good too. We love that.
Always take it back and then borrow it again.
Yep. All right, everyone. Good night, everyone.
Good night.